Greetings! Welcome back to Couch Critics. Dennis P. Still sitting here on my couch and musing over football. What I'm going to do in this video is first I'm going to recap the Chelsea-Arsenal match at the Bridge, barn burner. And then I'm going to take the second half to preview Chelsea versus Newcastle up at St. James. Okay, let's get right into the recap. Chelsea-Arsenal. What a match, first of all. Definitely lived up to all the hype and expectation that was coming with it. And yeah, one of the key talking points I decided to focus on in the pre-match was both clubs' ability to press and also play out from the back. And it was definitely a telling aspect of the game. I thought Chelsea did a great job in the first 30 minutes, pressing high and also recovering possession a lot of the time as well. They definitely forced Czech to make a lot of decisions early and often. And a lot of the times he would either play it to the center backs, either with Socrates or Mustafi, or they'd go into Guendouzi, who I thought had a decent game for Arsenal, the young 19-year-old, and he'd initiate the attack. So either Czech would play to the center backs, or he would just like hoof it long and just hope. And in both instances, it would end up with Chelsea regaining possession and being right back at them again. At the other end of the pitch, I found it to be very interesting. Arsenal did make an effort to press high and force Chelsea to make decisions about where they wanted to start their attack from early. But at the same time, when they did pressure high, they didn't put any pressure on the ball. So a lot of the time, they took a high position on the pitch, but at the point where the ball was, there was no pressure being laid. So as a result, Chelsea found it very easy to play out from the back and build attacks from there as well. The left flank, Chelsea's left and Arsenal's right, was one that was exploited routinely, almost with every attack going forward, with the interplay between Jorginho, Alonso, Willian, and every now and then Barkley would come in and make that more of an overload on that side. And Arsenal just had no answer with the likes of Bellerin, I want to say Mkhitaryan, and to a lesser extent Xhaka, because they just did not. They weren't really putting a lot of pressure on the ball at the points where you wanted to see it happen. So Chelsea found it very easy to play around them, and then they got in more than a few occasions. So I don't think that Arsenal did a good job of putting pressure on the ball, and I think Chelsea demonstrated that they had great composure on the ball when they were somewhat pressed. While Jorginho is great on the ball and great at initiating attacks and whatnot, he is going to be caught out a lot, just given the nature of his position. And I thought that was a key point in the game as well. He's the conduit. He is the guy that's going to be initiating attacks for us. But he's also the guy, but because he's being asked to do that all over the pitch, he's not going to be he's not going to be left central. So he will go support on the left, he will go support on the right, he will go support further up in the pitch. And if we lose the ball, which happened on a few occasions, he's the first guy that's going to be caught out, and it's an area that will get exploited and was exploited in the Arsenal game. Central midfielders in particular were nowhere to be found. Like on the cutbacks that you saw Arsenal hit us on, there was no play from our central mids, and also the distance between center back and full back was very, very, very narrow, and as a result, it gave, of course, the left-sided fullback Alonso would engage on the ball, didn't really put in a strong enough aggressive play for the ball, and as a result, it opened up cutbacks for Arsenal to exploit, and they did that relentlessly in the first half. It was unreal how many opportunities they had. Aubameyang had maybe like 3 chances to score and missed all 3. Iwobi had 2 and missed 1. Mkhitaryan had 2 and missed 1. And yeah, it was constantly open, and the reasons is because we were so narrow at the back, and then the midfielders weren't filling in. So guys like Kante, who you'd expect to have all sorts of like awareness on the pitch, was found to be too deep at times inside the 6, and not like at the top of the 18 where a lot of those late cutbacks were coming from. And Barkley, I don't know where he was. Like he didn't have a bad game, but in terms of his awareness on the pitch and like personality, didn't do it. So I think that that's another area where Chelsea will address in the future. This is the second game in succession where I didn't feel Azpilicueta on the flank had a typical Azpilicueta-like game, defensively in particular. A couple times he allowed Iwobi to run off him, and one led to a goal, the other not so much, but the threat was definitely there. And it was really strange because like he's usually the kind of guy that like understands where he needs to be on the pitch and doesn't allow anyone to get the beating of him. He allowed Monreal to get the beating of him a couple times and allowed him to put in a telling ball. I'm chalking this up to Azpilicueta readjusting to being isolated on the right, because he wasn't really getting a whole lot of support from Pedro as far as tracking back, which is probably by design. They probably want our wingers to stay high so we can initiate the counter quicker. But he's normally used to being tucked in and having an insurance in, say, somebody like Moses out wide to help facilitate that. Now he has to be able to judge the distance where he has to cover, because there's no help coming out there. He's got to handle that flank on his own. And I felt that he was a lot of the times was too narrow. Maybe that's by design as well. I don't know, but I felt like it was an area that Arsenal had no problem exploiting, and we have to watch out for that. I'm looking forward to seeing what SP does in terms of spacing going forward, whether or not he's actually going to engage further away from the 18, or if he's going to be basically tucked in the same way like he was today or on the weekend. In the second half of the game, I actually thought Arsenal started really, really well. They made the substitution. They brought on Torreira for Xhaka, who I really didn't think had any real influence on the game. He was caught out a lot and had the yellow card as well, often late in tackles and whatnot. And it led to Chelsea getting in a few times on the first half. So I wasn't surprised to see him subbed at 45. Torreira came on, and while he wasn't necessarily the conduit for their attacks, he definitely offered more presence on the pitch, I would say. What I didn't like seeing from Chelsea defensively was their press. I felt the distance and the decision to press, the decisions when you want to press were poor. For instance, Morata would go, like it'd be in the Arsenal end, and Morata would go, Pedro would follow, Willian would follow. But the distance between where you initiate the press and where the point of contact is for the ball was so great that it was almost nonsensical to even go at that point, because you're not getting to the ball. They have lots of time to make decisions. All you're doing is opening up gaps in the back for them to exploit, and they did that. You know, there's a couple times where a quick 1, 2, 3 passes and then over the top to Aubameyang, and he was in. One time he was caught offside, but the other time he wasn't offside and almost scored, could have scored. And it was a real area of concern. The decisions to go have to be more instinctual, and when to go. Like if the distance is too great, there's no sense in pressing up high, because you're going to expose yourself, as I said. And also, it's much better to like remain compact, allow them to come onto you, and then initiate the press and force the errors that way. If they know that you're coming and you don't have the distance, you don't have the pace to make up the distance, you're very easy to play around. I found that was the problem in the early going of the second half. Introduction of, say, somebody like Kovacic and Hazard around 65 was just another level. Like the injection of creativity and pace and like just raw drive was just incredible. I don't want to talk about this too much, but I can't wait to see what this is going to look like in about a month and a half, having Alonso, Jorginho at the fulcrum of the attack, and then you have Kovacic, Hazard, and then one of Morata or Giroud at the top, with possibly even Pedro coming in to create more of an overload. Ball retention was great. The ideas that they were coming up with in terms of off-the-ball movement was incredible. I thought Kovacic in particular added an injection of energy and pace just at the point of the game where you felt the game was going to slow down and like it was just going to become like this very slow movement, with Arsenal playing a little bit deeper and us struggling to find the gaps to exploit. On comes Kovacic, on comes Hazard, and then automatically like they were able to exploit gaps all over the left flank. I think a lot of teams in the EPL are going to have a lot of problems on that particular flank with those players on the pitch because they think the game at an accelerated level. Okay, let's get into the next fixture, which is Chelsea versus Newcastle at St. James Park. There's about maybe 5 or 6 key areas that I think we need to focus on, so let's get into it. One of the areas on the pitch that I think will be decisive in this particular match is going to be Chelsea's left, surprise, surprise, and Newcastle's right. And that's not only because I believe Chelsea will dominate possession, because they will, but also because that particular area on the pitch is where Newcastle like to build their attacks from as well. They play a 4-4-2, 4-4-1-1, depending on how you want to look at it, with Perez playing off of either Joselu or Rondon, who I also expect will start. And they have DeAndre Yedlin, who is coming back from injury, but I do believe he will start as well, bombing up and down the right flank and linking up with Matt Ritchie, who's the left-footed, inverted, like right-sided midfielder who is key to a lot of their attacks, not only from set pieces, but they also like to use him as a conduit to build their moves. I think for Newcastle to be successful, it's going to be imperative for the likes of DeAndre Yedlin and Matt Ritchie to have incredible games both going forward and back. Like I said, I do believe that particular flank is where most of the play is going to be taking place. And if they allow the likes of Jorginho, Alonso, Barkley if he starts, or Kovacic, or Willian, or Hazard, whoever starts out of those two, to dictate play and like start picking them apart, they're going to be in for a long day. It's going to be important for Ritchie to not only help defend, but also get forward and help build attacks. If neither of those two things happen, they're going to be in for a long day, and I feel like Chelsea is going to be very successful. By now, we probably all know that one of the main components to Sarri's system is the press, and it will be featured again in this particular match, but I'm questioning where the effective areas will be on the pitch in order to initiate it. Newcastle do not play out from the back, which means that they play a lot more direct balls into their strikers and build attacks from there. So it's going to be key for Chelsea to win second balls, I think, because Newcastle are very good in the air, and it's going to be important for guys like Jorginho, Conte, and Barkley if he starts, or Kovacic, to be in position to win second balls. And with that in mind, I don't think it'd be advantageous for them to press up as high as they did in the first 2 matches. They do have a midfield that is robust with Diame and Jonjo Shelvey, and I believe that if we're not cognizant of where those guys are on the pitch, they do have the ability to get forward and hurt you. So I would like to see Conte, Barkley, or Kovacic, and Jorginho to sit back a little bit deeper and initiate the press from maybe the midway line, the halfway line in this particular game. And while I do believe Chelsea will be in possession of the football more often than not, the key to this will still be the press and putting pressure on the ball, making sure that Newcastle are making decisions on the ball under duress at all times. Newcastle, first of all, do not pass the ball very well, and secondly, do not retain possession very well. So in order to get the right decision, I think Chelsea need to pressure the ball early and often, which can and will lead to scoring opportunities in the offensive third for Chelsea. So let's hope that this is a hallmark of the game and they take advantage of the errors that they can produce in the pressing game. If you are overly aggressive in pursuit of the ball versus a Maurizio Sarri team, you will get punished. Overly aggressive players often get played around very easily and leave gaps. I think I saw this the first time at Chelsea against Arsenal when Ramsey, I think, first came on the pitch and was in pursuit of the ball with Conte, Azpilicueta, I believe Pedro was involved, and Rudiger, and they just played around him so effortlessly and built an attack from there. It actually almost led to a goal as well, with Hazard whipping the ball across the box. Just couldn't find anyone to get on the other end of it. But I think it's going to be interesting to see if guys like Shelvey and Diame can remain composed and into their positions, or if they're going to be chasing after the ball like in pursuit of winning it, because if they do, it could lead to a lot more goal scoring opportunities for Chelsea. I'm going to go with a 3-1 Chelsea win, with Hazard scoring his first of the season, Morata continuing his good form as of late, and Conte popping up with another goal, record for him. And I don't think that I'm being too cavalier in my prediction here. I just think that Chelsea have too much for this Newcastle squad, and with this medium to high press that they're implementing, and also the ball retention, I think they'll be able to like cause Newcastle all sorts of headaches, and hopefully will come out the victors at St. James Park. We owe them that too, like that after that last game last season, that 3-0 wasn't good. So let's hope Chelsea turn it around this week and emerge the victors.